In this second video, I'm going to show you how to initialize an IP camera. All new IP cameras after 2018 have firmware that require a username and password to be set and some security questions and a recovery email to be set. That can either be done by using a PC and a PoE switch or a power adapter, or you can actually push it through your DVR or NVR. This video focuses on using DVRs. So before we initialize, it's a good point to bring up how to figure out what sort of network you're on, because all of our cameras and DVRs ship out on the same network and same IP address. The default IP address is going to be for the subnet of 192.168.1 and then some other number. Usually every single one of our devices is 108. This DVR, before I start initializing, I changed its IP address to 105. So a subnet is basically the scheme of IP address, this three sets of digits in the front. This could be sometimes a 0, 2, or any other number, and so can this be, all the way up to 255. So what I want to do is make sure you understand that if your DVR looks like this, and it's 192.168.1, and it has a 108, change that number first to something else. In my case, it's 105. If you have that IP address available, change it, hit apply, and the DVR will reboot. Why are we doing this? Because all of our DVRs and IP cameras will be on this 108 IP address here, and we don't want a conflict. Second is, if you have a PoE switch, connect your NVR, as we show in this picture here. Connect your NVR to the uplink port of the PoE switch and connect one IP camera to the PoE port. It's very important you connect the NVR to the uplink port, to the PoE switch, and connect the camera to the PoE port. Once you're done, come back to this menu. If you're lost, go back to main menu. Now click on camera on the bottom left, and then go to registration. If you followed our first video, under channel type, you should already have IP channels enabled, and you will have the registration menu available. And then select None and hit Device Search. It'll find the IP camera you have on your network. In my case, I have one IP camera here, and it has an X next to status. It's telling me that because that it hasn't been initialized. So I need to click the check mark and hit Initialize. When I do that, it's asking me, do you want to use the current device password and email info? I'm going to hit Next on this, but let me explain what's going to happen when I do. It's going to copy over the username and password for the admin user from my DVR onto my IP camera and set that IP camera with that username and password. What you need to be kind of careful about is if you change the password for your admin user in the future, it may cause disruption in your IP camera's ability to work with your DVR. Now it's asking me if I want to set the IP address to something else. We advise you never use DHCP because if power goes out and the cameras come back on, they're going to have a different IP address and your video is going to be all over the place. So here I'm going to select static because it's going to stay static, and I'm going to assign it an IP camera that's going to work on my network. So I'm going to change this. In fact, I'm going to number my cameras to 200. Now let's say your DVR actually had a completely different IP address you set it to because you're an advanced user, and you set it to, like, let's say 10.1.1.30 or something, and this was appropriately changed. You can actually use this initialization procedure to change the IP address of the camera as well to whatever you want, regardless if you're on the same subnet or not of the 192.168.1. So in this case, I'm changing my IP address to a 200, hit Next. And then it says initialize succeeded, modify password, IP succeeded. So what it did is configured my camera, and guess what? If I hit device search again, it's going to have that camera appear with the IP address I set and has a green check mark next to status. All I need to do is hit this and add, and my IP camera will get added below. Give it a few seconds. I want to make this, okay, now it's green. That means the camera is working. So if I right click and exit out of the menu and go to viewing either the 9-channel grid, I'll see my camera there. And it was added as the 5th channel because what happens is in DVRs that have IP camera input capabilities, the first few channels, how many ever is your DVR, like mine is a 4-channel DVR, the first 4 channels are B and C, and the next 4 in this case are IP channels. So it was added as the 5th channel here, and here I can see my 4 megapixel camera, and it's pretty good quality. That plate is about 30 feet away from where the camera is sitting. You can see the camera shining back in the glass. It's a very sunny day. And we just put the camera indoors to make this video, and you can see that it can even pick up a license plate 30 feet away. So you can get a lot of power out of your IP cameras by using them with a hybrid DVR or one of our XVR units. If you want to zoom out, right-click, and then right-click one more time, and go to main menu. This concludes the second part of this video. We covered how to tell what your IP address is on your DVR or XVR, and also how to initialize an IP camera onto your DVR. Thanks for watching.